Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers.
Folks, welcome home. Here we are, another episode of Shaking Your World. This will be one of the Ghost Tales pieces. We are honored today to have Bryan in the house with us. Bryan has a unique set of circumstances that have allowed him the ability perhaps to delve deeper into some of the paranormal world and to see things that other people just don't see. Bryan, welcome home. Nice to have you, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm honored for the opportunity. Here
Yes,
you go, brother.
Thank you.
Okay. So, a little background on you.
Well, let's see. I've been in Milwaukee for the last 20 years. I primarily work in sales and customer service. I've also done some freelance creative work involving photography and some design and marketing. And I've been a big fan of Shakers for quite a while.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So as far as the spiritual component or end of things, and I don't mean your relationship to God and whatever else might be there, but I mean your ability to interact with and to see and to sense the spirit world.
In my case, my introduction to that and how I got really connected with that area came from my first tour here at Shakers. Back on New Year's Day of this year, 2020, I took the 2.0 tour.
Okay.
And had a very profound experience in terms of there was a very strong reception between myself and some of the elements that we were experiencing while on the tour.
Would you care to illuminate that a bit for us?
Well, we were in different areas of the building.
Okay.
We went down to the basement and got a sense of what was going on down there, and in the sense where the guide was using the divining rods, some of the energy was directing straight at me. When we were upstairs on the second and then third floor, again, a lot of the elements and the presences were directing directly toward me in particular in relation to other people who were there. So this kind of sparked my curiosity on a number of areas about it. I came back for a little bit more of a inside look at things using the rods myself. I made some pretty significant contact with a few different spiritual elements. In particular, someone that I was confident is a direct member of my family. So it just opened my awareness and my perspective to an area that I had previously not had much direct interaction with.
Okay.
But it's been a wonderful experience and it's opened my imagination up to a whole realm of possibilities that I hadn't considered before.
Okay. So, obviously you have dark glasses on because you have a bit of a lack of acuity, visual acuity.
Right.
Okay. Now, science has long said that when you lose one faculty or you have a diminished ability for one sense, that you pick up other things. Do you think that your diminished visual acuity has helped you to have a acuity for other things, perhaps the paranormal or the energy sources or something like that?
It's an interesting question, and that I have given that a lot of thought.
Okay.
In my case, my eyesight condition declined about 10 years ago, and I've since developed a filtering technique where I'm getting the most that I can out of one eye by filtering out the center field of the other while still maintaining a lot of the periphery. That's why I use a filtered lens instead of an eye patch as an example. In the sense of one sense coming down and other senses coming up, it is more, I would think, accurate to say that when one sense is diminished, you're paying attention to your other senses more.
Okay.
So I feel that a lot of my connection and a lot of my intuitiveness has just been more active.
Okay.
In that I'm using more tactile and audio and other perceptive factors more in terms of I'm paying attention to those elements more and using the eyesight aspect less without totally disconnecting on either of them. I think there might be a connection here with some of the spiritual energy and some of the psychokinetic element, but from what I've been able to tell, and through some of the connections that I've been making since being on those tours, it seems that it may have always been there. It's just that with the introduction that I received here at Shakers, I'm becoming more consciously aware of it.
Interesting. So you have mentioned Psychokinetic to me in the past. You want to expand on that a little bit?
It's simply a way of differentiating which types of energy there might be out there. I mean, you mentioned, in a matter of being particular, the difference between spiritual energy we might experience here at Shakers or in other areas being different from those we might consider along the line of faith. So in my case, trying to establish or identify where some of these presence and some of the other elements may come into play, trying to put something of a context or a characterization on it. You know, the psychokinetic, the paranormal, different things like that. It's within those arenas, the ballpark of that. That's kind of how I try to explore where in some of the elements might come into play.
Okay. So in the times that you've been here, the many times that you've been to Shakers, which again is regarded as one of the most haunted bars in the country, and there's always something somewhere, and often when you least expect it to be there, that's where I pick up on things. And often in mirrors, just a reflection or the corner of my eye, you get a glimpse of something that's there. So for you, where were your greatest experiences here, or the greatest interaction with something other than whatever we might consider to be normalcy? Upstairs, downstairs, front of the house, back of the house?
It's been kind of all around. I did pick up a pair of divining rods for myself, and I also did purchase a pair as a gift for someone else that I'm close with.
Okay.
And just in the sense of giving them a trial run while here, right on the first floor here, in both areas of the building, I've gotten pretty strong response, and they did give me some accurate read. In particular, in the building, I would say the strongest interaction I was experiencing was up on the third floor.
Okay.
There's someone who has a historical connection with this building that seems to have an affinity for communicating with me, and I really appreciate that. So I've been trying to just allow that course to run as it would naturally.
Excellent. So I'm sure there's people sitting at home saying, my gosh, the guy can't see well, so how does he know if the rods are crossing? Well, the answer I can respond to on that is that when you hold these rods, these divining rods, there's no doubt in your mind. You can have your eyes closed all day long, and you know those rods are crossing. You literally feel them move in your hand.
Right.
And you can resist that if you want to, but those rods are still going to move. And it is an uncanny thing. If you haven't experienced it yourself, it really is something dynamic.
Correct. That's exactly how it is with me, and that because of the L shape that they have, when you have them in your hands and you essentially stabilize or clear yourself and allow your transceiver to be active and the radio receiver to be switched on, you have enough of a grip on them where they're not loose and you're holding them parallel to the ground, but you don't have such a tight lock on them that they aren't able to move themselves. So to imagine you've got these metallic thin cable type things within your grasp lightly, and you can feel where, if they are directing any particular way or if they are crossing or moving apart, you can tell. And sometimes when they do cross, if you've got them level with each other, they might clang into each other. So there's a way to be able to feel the movement without optically looking at it.
Well, they're receivers. I'm not quite sure how to put this, but they receive the energy, and I'm always astounded at, in my mind, I'm constantly thinking how much energy it must take for something which doesn't necessarily exist anymore. I mean, their energy in my world continues on, but the energy specifically directed towards these rods to make them turn is not a small feat.
Right. It also has, I think, to do with the connective ability of the person that's holding them. Someone who is open and a good conduit of their own energy is probably going to receive a better response than someone who may have more interference, or I guess you could say spiritual static, in terms of not really receiving the signal as well.
Well, that's a great point, because my analogy to this is obviously I'm a cook, I'm a chef. And so when we do different cooking seminars or classes or something else, I'm trying to get people to understand that just because the recipe calls for 1 ounce of this or 2 ounces of that doesn't mean that's the finality of it, because every processing plant that is breaking down, whether it's herbs or something else that you're getting it for packaged spice or packaged herb, is going to have a different process on something. And from time to time, we are working with natural products. So that oregano is growing in the field before it gets dried. There's a difference in the process and how they dry things before they process them down, right? Or even as far as what the nutrients were in the soil. So that particular herb, like all the herbs, are going to taste different every single time. You have to develop a palate for these things to taste them. But it's the same way with different people holding the rods. Some people get it. We're all basically the same composition, right? The same minerals make up people.
Right.
But the certain composition is going to be different from everybody. And sometimes that just reacts or responds differently.
And as you would know in the restaurant business, where you get your source from is going to play into that. Some people may be coming from a source of spiritual energy that may be in one way versus somebody else, not to say better or worse or stronger or weaker, simply different combinations or frequencies.
Which even changes from day to day.
Right.
Just as your mood changes from day to day, right?
Correct. I mean, which plays into what people would see in their daily life. Some people are more approachable than others on certain days. That stands to reason that could play into effect when receiving some of the energy from what could be considered the other side of the spiritual coin.
You spent some time in the penthouse. You had a stay over one night not too long ago.
Yes.
How did that work out?
That was fantastic.
Okay.
As far as an overnight experience, that was wonderful. In the sense of the connectivity that I've had with different elements in play here at Shakers, it was a very welcoming and an embrace. Okay. It wasn't anything of a negative or unkind kind of energy. It was a welcoming and encouraging type of thing. So it reinforced and continued the pattern that I had experienced previously, and it was a wonderful opportunity that I'm very grateful I was able to participate in that.
I'm very happy to hear you say that, because people generally think about ghosts or spirits as being negative entities. And I think the vast majority of people that have died on the face of this rock have been, by and large, good people.
Correct.
And I think that for the most part, those people will continue forth that energy. I'm not saying that the energy translates the same way, but I'm saying if they had good energy when they were here, why would we assume that they'd have bad energy after they've passed this state of being?
Or that energy might stay the same. I have had some experience where some people that may have had a more negative appeal while on the living side of things tend to have or can have a little bit of a different flavor and are receptive in different ways when interacting beyond. So again, it comes back to the interaction that you have and the reception that you are open to will play a lot into that.
Yep. Cool. So upstairs, I have found more often than not this really commodious kind of convivial kind of environment for me. I know the backstory, obviously, on the hospitality workers and what took place up there.
Right.
But I have had very few experiences in my 30 years that have made me run like a schoolgirl. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but often I think you just have to think your way through those situations. And, again, as I say on a regular basis, these spirits have been here long before I've been here.
Right.
And most things you encounter, in fact, in life, people have died everywhere, right?
Right.
And often it's a non-event, it's a non sequitur, because the energy just passes forward. Your shell with the whatever you want to call it, a shell.
Right.
And, then it's just into whatever is in the great beyond. Maybe nothing, but it's just whatever. The energy just moves. So I think that it's not unusual to find different energy sources from any number of places where people have died. Obviously, those things that were battlegrounds or sanitariums or hospitals or something have their own particular flavor, nuance, and energy that goes along with that. And I think that's where some of the negativity, and then obviously people that were killed, that had passed prematurely, that has its own energy as well. So that's there's a disturbance in the force, if you want to say it that way. And I guess I just did. So when you're down in my cellar, people are particularly creeped out. And I think one of the reasons is back because it's so incredibly dark. And I wonder how that impacts you, because you don't perceive darkness quite the same way that we do.
Right. In my case, optically, it's like having a piece of wax paper in front of your face all the time.
Okay.
And my low light perception is quite a bit less than other people. For me, whereas something might be dim, but you can still make out definition. In my case, it's a lot of times like pitch black, except for the areas where there is light. So being downstairs, and wanting and coming into it with an open mind and wanting to just explore and see if something was to be significantly of an experience. It didn't really have anything of an inherently creepy vibe to me just going down in there. It was more a matter of immersing into that space and just being open to, okay, is there anything here? But it wasn't so much to be, for me, any different than it would be being up here, being upstairs. There are different sounds and different audio components that come into it when you are in a basement, lower level kind of space like that.
So I believe that you're going to be upstairs next week on 30th, Friday night.
The 3.0 tour.
3.0 tour. And what do you hope to find there?
I'm really looking forward to utilizing some of the equipment that'll be available in that tour. If there's any chance that with the energy that I may and have been trying to explore that I may have, if any of that equipment can lend itself to a more manifested or significant, tangible recording of any of that energy, especially in a photographic or image base, that'll be really interesting.
Cool. Have you been other places aside from Shakers that have a psychic kind of connection going on?
I haven't had a chance to get around to any other places that would consider themselves part of the haunted community. I have tried to reach out to people who are a little more in tune, a little more trained, people who do readings and other receptive kind of, what's the term, when someone has an ability to gauge with the type of aura or, some of those forces that may be at play within a person's spirit. But I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot of going out and doing other tours out of the places.
Have you had the opportunity to speak to one of our readers like Negria?
I wanted to, but you did have someone who was here regularly earlier in the year, and I never got a chance to meet her before she had to step away. She's
back. Her husband had unfortunately passed, and she's back now for this month. She generally starts a bit later at night, about 8:30 on Fridays and Saturdays. That's a little beyond your normal time to be here.
It's when I've typically when I've been here, but certainly, making the effort for a opportunity like that is absolutely a value.
Well, if you're interested and available, I will be more than happy to put you at the front of her line so we can.
That'd be awesome.
Get you in quickly. Cool. Anything you'd like to close with about your experiences here, or as far as your new interest in the paranormal or anything like that?
Mostly from the level of gratitude. I really appreciate how welcoming and how encouraging and what a wonderful space you've been able to build here and what you put together. I know a number of people in the photography community in terms of both doing photographic work, people who do modeling and some other things, that there have been some events here that have been very well received. So it's mostly my thanks, Bob, that you've been doing a great job of putting together a space here that is really excellent on a number of levels. The food has been fantastic. The bar scene is amazing. It's a really friendly and encouraging environment here. And the paranormal experience has just been an added piece that stands on its own, but has also been a wonderful gift for me personally.
I'm honored that you say that, but I'm not necessarily surprised because we have a dynamic staff here. We have for my entire run of 30 years, we just had the cream of the crop of bartenders, servers, cooks, the whole cabal, and certainly with the ghost tours and the tour guides as well. And we really stress that we're one big family. We are an island of lost toys in many ways because we're just a little bit different from the rest of Milwaukee. We're not saying we're better, we're just a little bit different. Right. And we appeal to those people that kind of think outside the box and are comfortable outside that box. I'm glad that you're part of this, and I look forward to your next visit for the 3.0 tour. Let's see, I want to hear what happens on that.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
Bryan, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Folks, for those of you who have taken the time out of your lives to tune in, I really appreciate this. And we thank you very much. If you have any questions, please email us at shakersmilwaukee@gmail.com. And most importantly, I think it's imperative, especially in these COVID times, to be good to yourselves, be good to those people around you, and certainly your families. Cheers.